Hey guys, Don here, letting you know that the Open Cut podcast is now available on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. We'll be on your devices and apps of preference, so check us out. Here's the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We are now in the cut.
Welcome back to the Open Cut.
We've had two events since the last time we spoke. UFC 240 was kind of a dud as far as pay-per-views go. This last week was a fight night in Newark. It was an afternoon card, and I actually really enjoyed it. But we're going to go back to last week's card to start out. UFC 240, headlined by Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar. I'm hoping this is the lamest pay-per-view of the year.
I hope so. Yeah, especially with Mr. Canada, always representing this Canada cards, Mr. Blessed.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching his fight. I thought that the last three fights of the evening were all pretty good, but overall, almost all decisions. Not a whole lot went down. Big favorites throughout the card, and the big favorites won. Nothing exciting there. Max came away with a win against Frankie. I thought he looked great. Yeah. I thought he won every round. I thought he touched him up, kept the distance where he needed to, was never in danger. Holding serve, really. That's part for the course. It was what he was expected to do.
Everything that we kind of talked about before, and I think what most people talked about leading up to this fight is Frankie Edgar 5 years ago, maybe a little different story. Max Holloway even 5 years ago, a little different story. I think this was just another day at the office, and it showed. Glad for Max, especially after coming off the Poirier, going weight class up, fighting that, and getting a loss there. But Max, win or lose, man, just is the man.
Win or lose,
he's just the man. Yeah. He's just such a good guy and a good guy for the sport.
If he's not, he certainly comes off as a good guy.
Yeah. There's never a time that I think...
We wouldn't be able to tell he's not a good guy.
There's never a time I thought that Max Holloway's a dick. For me now, what do you see? I know we always talk about it. There's a lot of mixing up going here in the featherweight the next couple months, especially with this Mexico. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like when and who and how soon, because will Max want to fight one more time this year? And
the money's right. He wants to fight this year. He's saying he wants to fight in December.
He's always offering. He's never saying just give me a call. He's like, no, just I'm available. Just let me know.
Yeah, Volkanovski's the only one to fight. He's the only one that makes sense. They're having that card in Melbourne, Australia in October, which is a pretty quick turnaround for Max.
But perfect.
Would be a huge card for him to be on. I mean,
a 5-round fight where he didn't really take anywhere near the damage that he's done in the past with like the Aldo fights when he really didn't take that much damage. He caused more than he actually
usually doesn't take too much damage. Last fight he did.
The Poirier is a little different experience, but I hope that it is what we always say. Volkanovski makes sense. I just hope nobody throws a monkey wrench in it again and we have things get extended. So I'm with you. I think it's right there. It makes sense. Just don't let this Mexico City card, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit more here later, don't let that fuck up this transition. Because I think right now the featherweight is the best example of how things should be running as of right now.
It seems like usually the person who deserves the next shot is getting it in the featherweight division. I think that absolutely it's Volkanovski. After what he did to Jose Aldo, with Jose coming back off of 2 wins against tough opponents, and Volkanovski made him look terrible. I don't see anyone they could give the next title fight to. It's just, will Max turn around and fight in October, or is this fight going to be in December? It'd be fortunate to be in October. I, as a fan, would love for it to be in October. It's going to be goofy with the timing of it because it's going to be in Australia, but I'd love to see the quick turnaround. It makes the event bigger. More hype around it. Volkanovski's an Australian fighter.
And Max deserves that too. Both of the guys do.
That's the other thing, is it's about as close as you're going to get to Hawaii.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we go from Canada. It's going to be the other
dude's backyard, but it's going to be about as close to a home fight as he's had.
But Max doesn't care about that, and I think for Volkanovski, especially after we did the Aldo and then getting sick and then them announcing that he wasn't getting the title fight when he thought he was getting it, I mean, I think he deserves this, and I'm super excited to see that fight, obviously.
I think it's the toughest fight for Max, so I am the most excited to see it. Out of any of the fights in the featherweight division, I think Volkanovski is going to present the toughest matchup for him.
What have I been saying? He's a guy that is a new breed in that division that we've never seen, and that's the best part, is this is new flavor for Max, and Max welcomes it. Bring whoever with any fucking tools you want. I'll still play with you.
right? That's been his thing. He's the king. He's got to defend the crown. Yep. So he'll continue to do that. I really, really have a hard time seeing it's going to be someone besides Volkanovski. We'll just see when that plays out. Co-main event, Chris Cyborg and Felicia Spencer. Chris Cyborg won every minute of this round.
Yeah.
Felicia Spencer was tough, though. She hit her with some big elbows. She
opened up with that elbow.
Anywhere. Oh, yeah.
First cut ever that she's technically had and busted her up off.
That's hard to believe. That she's never been cut
I don't know.
Before,
but that bad a cut.
It was a big cut.
It got her good, and I mean, it definitely made her reevaluate going in that crazy. But, God, she touched Felicia up, but Felicia Spencer just was like a mini Mark Hunt, dude. Just took fucking bombs.
Yeah.
But to go to a unanimous decision with Cyborg, I don't care who you are, that early in your career in the UFC, that still speaks volumes.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have gone, if it had been 2 more rounds. Who's to say? But she looked tough. She looked tough for these 3 rounds. She didn't win any of it. She didn't win any rounds, that's for sure. But
Cyborg is exhausted. Yeah. She's not going to make 5 rounds. So this is only a 3-round fight, man. Yeah.
Either way, the moral of the story right now is it does not look like Chris Cyborg will be fighting in the UFC again.
Yeah, it sounds like
she's probably going to be parting ways.
Do you think she goes to Bellator since Coker's such a big fan of hers and been offering so long and she's been so unhappy?
He's been talking like he wants him to for sure. I think she just wants to see who's going to pay her. She might go to anyone that's going to pay her.
Money's there. Yeah. The money's there for
her. Felicia Spencer, on the other hand, she just took a 3-round beating from Cyborg after coming off a big victory. I don't think that there's anyone else really in the division that's going to excite her to fight anytime soon. I think you just kind of hold off and wait and see what the future of the division is, if they can bring in some other girls to bring you fights, because you just beat Megan Anderson quickly. You just lost to Cyborg. You're not going to fight Amanda Nunes next. Who else is there?
Well, you could take Yana. Because the thing is you can take a look at Felicia, and no disrespect to her, she's not going to be able to cut to Bantam. That is just, that girl's got too much on top of her. And I think that's one reason why she was able to withstand what Cyborg did to her, is because she had a little cushion as far as she was able to last a little longer. Fat breeds more than muscle. So she was able to stay active, hopefully try to wear Cyborg's punches down, even though she was still tattooing her. But I think a girl like Yana would be great in the featherweight if she wants to fight there, because she lost to Cyborg. She got fucked up from it. You got Felicia, who's new in the division too. That's her only option in featherweight, unless she wants to get on a serious nutrition plan.
Yeah, she's going to have to change her lifestyle.
You're going to have to wait for somebody new to show up. But look at her. She showed up out of nowhere, and now we're talking about her.
And
that's the nice part.
Looks like they're going to make an effort to bring in a 145-pound girl. So hopefully that trend continues. There does emerge a fight that she's interested in, but right now I think you
heal up.
Yeah, you came back quick. You fought Cyborg. Take a break.
Yeah, take a break. Heal up.
Fight before that was Jeff Neal and Nico Price. I thought Jeff Neal looked really good. Good.
Jeff Neal. The first thing they said as they opened up, they said, "Be prepared for this quickness and just violence of Jeff Neal." And he threw out a leg kick and like 3 crosses, and I'm like, "Holy shit, he's fast and powerful." But Nico Price welcomed it. Nico's a wild man. And whether they clanked heads or not in the middle of that ring, he fucking stung Jeff, and he was in trouble. Nico did.
This was a fun fight to watch.
This was a fun fight to watch. And the coolest thing I loved at the end, like Nico reminded me like a middle school kid. He got knocked out. He was taking bombs on the ground, and he got up. And he's like, "Man, great fight. I hate you though," and like pushed him away, like like a dude that hangs out with his friends. Like, "You beat me, but whatever, man. I hate you." But Jeff was definitely vulnerable at times, got in vulnerable positions, but Nico on the ground, man, dude, he ate a lot of big elbows and a lot of big hands from Jeff and was able to withstand through. But I just think the power of him, he just really impressed me how explosive he was for a guy that's just as wild as he can be with Nico. So that was probably my most entertaining fight of the evening.
I think so. I think it was.
To me.
Yep. Arman Tsarukyan won. I was more impressed with his most recent loss against Ismail Makhachev than I was during this fight. But he came away with the victory. Marc-Andre Barriot came away with another loss. He needs to push the...
I was so disappointed.
Push the pace more.
I was so disappointed in his performance.
Yeah.
He just laid there, kind of got, not even overwhelmed, just kind of didn't know when to take advantage of just being active. He never got explosive on the ground to get out of, where he was being, pushed and just smothered. He never really pressed the pace to land any big shots, change the levels. He kind of just looked outclassed by a guy that he probably should have done the same to.
Both of his last fights have been decisions. They've been close decision losses. In both of the fights, he's had moments where he looks to be the better fighter. It looks like he lands the bigger shots, but he's not active enough. I don't know if he's timid, doesn't want to get caught in something, but I also was expecting more from him. This fight was kind of a snoozer.
I didn't pay much attention to it.
There were some big shots landed, but it was not entertaining like the Jeff Neal fight.
Yeah, he was a hell of a prospect, Olivier, which I'm referring to. Is I think he was definitely somebody that they saw to be a new type of breed in that division. And a performance like that, like I said, it really disappointed me. I wanted to see more out of it, but who knows? That's a tough opponent. Being smothered on the ground is tough at any time to look enjoyable and be fun, but it did not seem like he was engaging as much as he should have.
And the night opened up with Davison Figueiredo defeating Alexander Pantoja by decision. Another fight that went to a decision. I don't know how many.
This actually might be my favorite fight on the card.
Yeah, you think so?
That was a decision fight because there's a lot of decisions. Figueiredo put it on Pantoja, but Pantoja said, "I don't give a shit." You talk about when we talk about tough as nails, the shots he took and competed just over and over again, repetition, taking the shots and just kept walking forward, And Figueiredo was like, "I kind of like this." Like. Both guys just went at each other, went crazy. I guess commentators kept thinking that Figueiredo had broke his hand at one point. He was acting like he wasn't engaging with it. Dude, he threw plenty of right hands that did not look like his hand was broke. I mean, he was landing them. I mean, you saw Pantoja's face at the end of it. There's a reason that guy only has one loss on his record because he's that fucking nasty. And there's what we always talk about. A fight like that, it's what I've been saying, man. That's why flyweights are fun. Those were two aggressive flyweights that didn't care and went in there. Figueiredo says, "I'm not moving up to bantam. I'm staying here until I can get that belt." That speaks volumes of what he wants to do. Pantoja, that doesn't hurt him at all. That was a knockout, drag-out fight. Great bet win by you. You called that.
Yeah, it was even money for Figueiredo, so I took that one and that paid off. By the time we got one. Anything else on that card worth talking about?
I liked Hakeem's switch kick into the head against Hori. The patience of Hakeem to wait that long in that fight and not really engage that much. Like he almost saved his energy, but once he found that shot, man, he's vicious.
That was a fun fight. He looked good.
He looked very good.
The finish was fantastic.
The finish was kind of like he waited to set it up like a lot of fights we've seen. He did not try to go in there and put the guy away right out the gate because Hori was being very active. He was on top of him the whole time. He was throwing shots back and forth. It's just, man, that caliber is just different with that strength. But yeah, like we said, not a lackluster, but not my favorite pay-per-view. Some good fights, a lot of decisions.
I'd call it lackluster. I'd be disappointed if there's another pay-per-view the rest of this year.
And I agree with that. I don't want to see another pay-per-view like this. I'm glad that the guys that did show up did because their stock needed to be shown, even if it's on a lower card like this.
Yeah, big win for Jeff Neal.
Yeah, it's on a pay-per-view card. It's on a Max Holloway card. It's a Canada card.
Frankie's on the card.
Frankie's on it. People, Cyborg. You got to remember back in the day, and whether people enjoyed watching the women's fights or not, Cyborg headlined a ton of fucking pay-per-views, man. Whether she's the pay-per-viewer or not, people still know the name. They see it. Jeff Neal probably won the night with that being where he was on that card.
Yeah, just back into the mix in the welterweight division, and there's a lot of people in that mix. Speaking of that mix, UFC Fight Night Newark was headlined by some welterweights, Colby Covington and Robbie Lawler. That fight was a showcase for Colby Covington, but I think that this whole event was a showcase for the UFC.
Yeah.
This was on ESPN during the day. It was originally scheduled to be in Russia, and that got canceled a long time ago, but they kept the time slot. So now we are in New Jersey.
At noon.
Yeah.
At noon prelim.
The main card starts at 3. I loved it.
We've always
watched
talked
it during
about
the day. Didn't have to worry about staying out late at night. And this card had everything. It had 5 submissions, 3 KOs, 4 fights went to decision. Good mix there. 3 times we saw fighters choked unconscious. Don't see that on a
It was like
card.
The Walking Dead, man. There was just bodies everywhere for no reason.
2 fighters missed weight, but they still fought. We had a doctor stoppage. We had 3 groin kicks in the same fight.
Ugh.
And we had the first family, the Trumps in the front row.
Dude, killing it.
This event had everything.
And in New York, of all places, the Big Apple, or New Jersey, I'm sorry. Out of all places, you got a place that money-wise and name-wise, everybody's going to be loving it. It's America. It was Trump's America fighting that night. I love it.
Yeah, I had a blast watching this card, and this was not one that I was really excited about. On paper, this did not look like
didn't
a
look
fantastic
this.
card.
No, not at all.
But the way it played out, it was a good watch, and I hope a lot of people did watch it. Let's start with the main event, Colby Covington and Robbie Lawler. Colby Covington dominated every round of this fight, maybe every minute of this fight.
Yeah.
I still don't think I've seen him really lose a round in the UFC.
I don't want to sound like everybody else with the pressure, the pace, and everything else. What Colby does is different. And there's a lot of guys that do it, but there's a lot of times guys give up on that plan. Colby kept his plan. He decided that I'm going to be a boxer tonight at times with no power. And the other times I'm going to wear you out with my pace on the wrestling, and I'm going to take my time, and no matter what, I'm going to be the dominant guy every round.
It was like point boxing. I mean,
it was all point boxing. It was all, I'm going to touch you up. I'm not going to really damage you. There was never a time that Robbie was significantly cut until the end of the fight where he took that fucking bow.
There was never a time when Robbie could load up and swing on him because of how active Colby was.
Colby was moving around like a jackrabbit. There was never a time that Robbie could get him in a corner.
Porn star cardio.
Yeah. There's never a time that he could get him in an area and drop bombs or just put Robbie's fury on him. And if you watch the fight in the 5th round, the coaches are on Robbie. They said, Robbie, do what you do. And he goes, I'm going to walk him down. I'm going to walk him down. Robbie's head said, I'm going to walk him down. The outcome and the way that Colby fights, there's no opportunity to do that.
He tried.
He tried.
He kept walking after him, but Colby was fighting. He was moving, getting his hands on him all the time. He never had a clean look at him.
You brought up a great point a couple weeks ago about Masvidal, who is Colby's partner, how frustrated he used to get with Damian Maia when he was fighting him before in welterweight. And he's like, I can't get a hold of this guy. I can't land shots. This is what happened to Robbie. Robbie's like, dude, I know what's coming. I can't do my normally Robbie Lawler fight, and I know all I have to do is just continue to try to get around this guy and hopefully something lands, but I know what's coming. It's frustrating for a fighter like Robbie that loves to engage, loves to get nasty, and loves to take a chance. Colby is probably right now, I don't think even in division in the welterweight, I think in general, one of the most patient and smart game plan fighters that we've seen this year.
It's just a boring game plan is the problem.
But what have I been saying? Is your bet on it last time we talked was terrific. Colby's going to play his normal game. It's not entertaining. It's not the most exciting.
He's going to win by decision. He's going to win every round. It's going to work. Unless he gets caught with something huge. And he's going to continue to do this. It's funny because it is, I think, the most boring fight style we see that on a normal basis in the UFC.
To the eye.
But him and Kamaru Usman have the same style. And it's clearly the best style right now in the welterweight division because what they're doing, no one's with. I mean, they're winning. Like I said, I don't think I've seen Colby lose a round. Kamaru hasn't lost too many. They're both very dominant in their performances. They both do not get finishes, but they dominate their opponents.
Well, and when you're taking, so I use both sides. You have Robbie Lawler. Whether you think that he's still in his prime or not, Robbie physically and for his cardio looks the best he's ever had.
He looks as good as he has. Yeah.
He's shut down. You look when Usman fought Tyron Woodley, who was the scariest man in the welterweight division. Shut him down and even got him hurt. The only difference in this fight, Robbie was never hurt. Robbie was just like, fuck, I don't want to continue to keep this pace even though I know it's coming. Like you said, that is the problem as viewers. This fight absolutely needs to happen with Usman and Colby. To the naked eye, this is a very boring fight to represent the UFC.
You gotta get something else exciting on that card.
This is very boring to people in the UFC that do not follow it like we do because the caliber is so high here, but the caliber is not entertaining. It's always like you say, as bad as it is, somebody likes watching a train wreck compared to everything being smooth and everything operating perfectly on the highway. If you drive by a car that's on fire or a wreck, you all stop and look at it. If everybody's passing on the highway perfectly driving the right speed, you don't think about it. These guys are the same type of deal. What they do works. It's not very entertaining for people.
I'm wondering if what they do will work against each other, because it is the same thing. You're not going to outpace one of them by just sit there and well, I guess Kamaru puts a little bit more behind his shots, but it's basically the same thing. Wrestle you down, make you tired, then try and put some hands on you. And I don't know how it's going to work. That's why I'm most excited about this fight. I want to see it happen. Typically, when these fighters don't fight when they fight other opponents, I kind of know what's going to happen. I'm not too excited about it, but when they're fighting each other, I am excited to see what happens.
That's a good point. The only thing that I noticed the other day that we talked about before is Carmouche Usman definitely has stronger power, because he knocked out Warrior Alves, who is the same guy that choked out Colby. So their experience of taking advantage, because we've talked about it before, Warrior Alves is a little bit above his prime on where he should be at. Correct me if I'm wrong. Colby, it's not going to show on this sheet, but it's probably, it's not even on that sheet. I'm sorry, Sergio Moraes. Sergio Moraes, we talked about that. That is a 40-year-old fighter that was knocked out by Carmouche Usman. That was his last knockout, I believe.
Yeah, that was his last
Colby fought Warrior Alves. That choked him out. That's another fighter that's a little bit below his prime. So Colby has been dominating guys in his game, and then had one time he had submission. Usman, like you said, probably has the advantage with the hands, that maybe if he can put that pace and also touch Colby up a little bit, maybe that's where the difference in this game of two similar guys. Because Robbie Lawler is going to do Robbie Lawler. He's not going to try to wrestle you. He's not going to try to wear you down. He wants to take your head off, or he wants to wait to take your head off in the 5th round. The difference is two guys that put that same pace. Is somebody else having a stronger punch going to finally matter when it gets to important areas on the ground?
So we're talking about Colby and Kamaru. You think that fight happens next?
We've said it all the time. It obviously makes sense, but we've been wrong before because we're not the matchmakers. I think it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense to make it this year, and especially what I've been saying about Colby. What have I said about Colby? Colby waited over a year. Colby waited a year and 3 months to fight Robbie Lawler just to get to the point to be able to fight Usman at this point.
I don't know. I hope.
I don't think
Usman's
Colby
been sitting out for forever.
He's not been sitting out as long as we think. Compared to Colby, I don't think Colby's in any rush. I think Colby, everything in his life right now is going right. Social media, Trump's boys, being out in the public eye, doing a dominant win over a guy like Robbie Lawler, getting in the face and
he's
starting.
Not getting a title shot. It's not going right. He got the interim title over a year ago. If he doesn't have a title shot by now, it's not going right.
I think he knows, regardless in his mind, that belt's coming no matter what. So I'm going to have fun in the meantime. He's getting press. He's getting money. He's getting entertainment. He's getting time to talk to Usman and other people like shit.
What's he getting money for if he's not fighting?
He's got plenty of endorsements and plenty of things. He's hanging out with the Trump family. You don't think here in the next 6 months he's going to try to lock something up in some type of marketing stuff with the Trump family or with anybody that'll sign him, because he's now the next name that's the bad guy in UFC right now. He is the Chael Sonnen in that division right now. He's not a guy
like Chael Sonnen than like Colby Covington.
Well, I'm sure they do. But there's always a bad guy. There's always a guy to not like. And Colby Covington wants to be that guy. And that's great. That's his game plan. Look, Masvidal said it to him. I'm okay with what Colby's doing. He's doing his own thing. It's working for him. Colby is not worried about just fighting and being active. Colby wants to have his time when he wants to have it.
Yeah, I think he wants to have it now.
I don't think so, man. I'm telling you right now, I don't guarantee, I really highly doubt after a fight like this that went 5 rounds, regardless or not, that he won, I do not see him and Usman fight this year. I think it's a very early or middle ground fight in 2020. I really do. But I can't speculate. Tomorrow, Dana White could come out and say this fight's fucking booked in November. You know, anything can change.
To go down in November.
Yeah, anything
really
can change.
Will happen in
just from track record wise that I've said about Colby before, Colby waited an entire year. The entire year before that was also after he beat Damian Maia, a complete year before that. He has been on a year track almost, except when he was trying to climb up through the ranks.
Yeah, exactly. Then he got the interim title, and now he's waiting for his title shot, and it hasn't come. He needs to get that title shot. So I think that he's going to push to get the fight soon. I'm done with Kamaru Usman being on the desk and not having defended his welterweight championship, so I hope that happens too. I think the only... Who else do you give it to? Masvidal, but I don't think he deserves it. I really hope that Colby does get it and it comes soon.
No, and I think he's, no matter what, deserving. And I think Masvidal and him know, no matter that they both want to go for money or not, it's got to be the most realistic guy that's been holding an interim belt and a guy that just proved himself to be there.
So what about Robbie Lawler?
I think Robbie's fine. I think Robbie, exactly what he said on the press conference. I go back to the drawing board, I wait for the call, I line up a fight, and I try to get back. Robbie Lawler is like a lot of guys to where his mentality is, I'm going to get back to being the dangerous, nasty guy in comparison to where I need to be in that division. And he absolutely can be. That puzzle that he just fought of Colby Covington is what is crazy. That is a big monkey wrench in his momentum, especially after the Askren fight.
Well, he's got 3 losses in a row now.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, though.
Out of his last 5 fights, his only win was against a lightweight.
Yeah, very, very true. But the fights that he's been having here, like we've been saying, are not normal fights. He's fighting a Ben Askren out of one championship, out of retirement, that is a completely different type of fighter who was flatlined by Masvidal less than 8 months later. Also, we didn't know if he was actually tapped out or not. He lost, no matter what. Then he goes in and fights Colby that we just watched and we just talked about. I'm not giving him any preferential treatment, but at the same time, Robbie Lawler is a name, and Robbie Lawler is very similar to like a Frankie Edgar. He's been around this sport a long time. He's done a ton for this sport. He's been involved in a lot of monumental things that have changed where this sport's come now. You can't just kick him to the curb and say, well, Robbie, I'm not seeing much in the well for you anymore here. Look at the guys he's fighting. Look at the things he's doing.
Oh, yeah, and people are going to watch him. I'm not saying we kick him to the curb, but you're talking about how he's an older guy. He's done a lot for the sport. He's got a huge name. He's really entertaining. Let's put him up against someone else like that.
RDA.
RDA? That wouldn't be a bad one, actually. They fought kind of recently. I mean, that's who he lost to before Ben Askren. I was thinking more like Anthony Pettis or Nate Diaz. Well, whoever comes out the loser of that one,
that's a great lineup.
Would be another fight that is easy to sell. Robbie Lawler, Anthony Pettis, or Robbie Lawler, Nate Diaz. That's an easy sell.
Well, and it just like this Colby fight was easy. The only reason I didn't bring that up for 2 reasons is you've had Nate Diaz that's been out for 3 years,
he's gonna fight
so
again.
You don't know if he'll fight again. Yeah. And then Anthony Pettis might say, "Hey, thanks, but no thanks. I need to go where the money's at. Hey, Masvidal, let's holla at me."
There's money in the Lawler fight today.
No, there is, but there's even more money in the Masvidal fight because if Masvidal doesn't get a higher-ranked opponent, Anthony Pettis is the next higher-ranked opponent that's going to get money and movement. So I'm 100% on board with you on that. I just didn't think about that because Nate Diaz is just an unpredictable bird just like his brother. I'm ecstatic that this fight is booked and still scheduled with Pettis. I hope everything goes wonderful with that. But yeah, I can't put all my chips on hoping that one of those guys that comes out of that wants to fight Lawler next. But fuck, man, in that division,
yeah,
I'll put my blindfold on and just throw at the board top 20.
Yeah,
it don't matter.
So that was the main event. Colby Robbie. Colby went unanimous decisions. Unanimously, everyone gave him 5 rounds. Some people gave him 10-8s in rounds.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was a beatdown. So yeah. Colby Covington is no longer the interim champion, but he should be the #1 contender, and hopefully he'll get that next fight. Co-main event, Jim Miller and Clay Guida. Clay Guida coming off of his victory over BJ Penn.
Big win.
Jim Miller coming back. Jim Miller choked him out unconscious in the first round. They traded blows early. Clay got a good shot in. Jim Miller got a good shot in, jumped on him, and then took his back, choked him out.
It was classic what we've seen with like Diego Sanchez with Clay Guida and everything. They go in balls to the wall. If he gets somebody hurt, he wants to finish him, and then a lot of times he gets hurt. And that's exactly what happened. Jim Miller caught him back, but this is one of the first times of the night, which we're going to talk about here a little bit later, is where Jim Miller had that clinch in had that choke in and just tried to squeeze the life out of Clay, and then finally everybody realized that Clay had been out for a while and released him, and Clay just sat on his knees and was toast. I mean, Jim played a great game. He's like I said, his submission game and his just overall knowledge, he's been around so long in the game that I just had so much confidence in him, and I'm so glad he got the win at home in New Jersey. Yeah. That was awesome. Great
for him. He looked impressive, and hopefully he'll fight again soon. Nasrat Haqparast put the KO down on Joaquim Silva. Sorry.
Joaquim.
That was a fun fight to watch, too.
That was about the highest level caliber that you were going to see that night of two exact guys. You got Haqparast that is fighting out of Firas Zahabi's camp with George St. Pierre, who's a young upcoming prospect. Both of these guys were so fucking high level. And Joaquim literally looked like War Machine at certain points that, I don't know if you remember War Machine that went to prison, but he was married. He just got married, so vicious. And I was waiting for anybody to trade. And that overhand right, man, Nasrat just waited, got through that guard, and landed. That was probably one of my most entertaining fights because I love the fights that I said earlier to the naked eye. Nobody gets it. They don't see how high level this is. Those two guys in that division, that is some high-level fucking guys in lightweight. And that's another division like welter that's so stacked. But I was really happy to see St. Pierre and Farasa come out with their dude. That kid's going to be a nightmare in that division if he stays healthy. I really think so. I really think he's going to make some changes here down the road.
Gerald Mearshart and Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles got choked unconscious. So this is another one of those 3 fights where we saw fighters go out due to chokes. In this one, Gerald Mearshart ended up getting off of him and lifted his feet up to get the blood back to his brain.
Mearshart is such a good guy, and I love his sportsmanship, and I also love how technical he is. Is when he locked that in, that guillotine, it was in. I mean, he rolled around with him, and just the level of him. I mean, that's another guy in that middleweight that is 1 or 2 wins away from being a guy that we talk about a lot more, kind of like what we talked about with Hermanson. This is a guy that can make some big moves in that division, moving into the other weight classes. And who knows, he might do the same. Just a lot of dead bodies that night for no reason. But that was another one where
you don't see it often.
Giles just had that tap in an awkward area that he could not get, that was not as visible as a lot of guys. And 2 or 3 seconds doesn't sound long. When you're in that situation, you tap, and then you go limp, and then you're still limp with a full tight. It's tough to watch, but great win for Mearshart, man.
Scott Holtzman took out Dong Yon Ma at the end of the second round. He was in a similar situation to Cerrone against Tony Ferguson, where he could not answer the bell for the third round because his eye had blown up to the point where he couldn't see.
He had to break an orbital because if you watch that shot, it was all eye socket that first shot when he dropped him. But tough son of a bitch, man.
Tough dude.
And he took shots repeatedly on that eye and just kept going. Could you imagine having your eye that fucked up and someone still punching it at this level and just saying,
"Damn it"? He kept coming forward. Yeah, yep. It was another fun fight to watch.
Yeah,
it didn't go the distance,
great.
But yeah, great finish, great fighter, tons of grit, tons of toughness,
and good win for Holtzman. Shows the accuracy and toughness he had.
And then the main card started out with Kennedy Nchukwu and Darko Stosic, and this is another fight you don't see too often. Darko had 2 points taken from him because he had 3 groin shots on Kennedy.
The last one, it's like,
all of them,
you were hitting him so square that it was not even, you couldn't even hide it. You could hear it and see it instantly.
It's a shame because he was definitely
winning.
the better fighter.
Yeah, he was definitely the better fighter.
Kennedy didn't really do much that was...
he was slower.
He probably won the second round maybe, but without those 2 points deducted, Stosic wins that fight, I think.
It's a shame, but that's the reason that rule's in there is you cannot just repetitively kick someone in the cup and hope to make it through the fight because it is debilitating,
right,
as we all know.
Him, yeah.
And it also makes you gun shy. And the thing is, once you get hit once, you're going to worry about it again. And unfortunately, he had to worry about it 2 more times.
The prelims were headlined by Mickey Gall. He got a victory at home. He looked good.
I hated that
really
fight.
Close fight.
I hated that fight because I don't think Mickey realized how fortunate he was to get that win. And I like Mickey Gall. I really do. I think Mickey thought in his head, like most fighters, that he had that in the bag. That was a close fight, and that was a lot of level changes and a lot of change-ups. So Salim could have been in the same boat.
Yeah.
And I don't think that fight helps Mickey much. I don't think
it does. He was just so exhausted.
He's looked. I mean, the Diego Sanchez was another one where he just did not look in as shape as he had. And I think it's another example of kind of like Chiesa. He's cutting so much weight.
He's really big
to get to welter like Chiesa did to get down the lightweight. That Mickey is almost too small for middle. But where else is he going to go? There's not a 165, and but he looks like he gets just stripped of his energy. Welter, that's what I'm saying. He's not. Well, I'm sorry, in between 170 and 185 to middleweight. But I don't know, man. That's a tough fight to really say that you can start fighting some higher caliber guys. But it's a homeboy win, so that's cool for him.
Another flyweight fight. Matt Schnell finished up Jordan Espinoza by submission in the first round. He didn't go to sleep on this one. This is one of the few submissions we had.
Triangle.
Yeah, where we had a choke that they did not go to sleep. That's good for Matt Schnell. He returned to the flyweight division after a brief stint in the bantamweight.
That was second fastest flyweight submission in UFC history. And Jordan Espinoza, man, ain't no joke. So Matt Schnell's looking like the real deal.
And Schnell now has 9 first-round submissions.
That's nuts.
Someone else who has 9 first-round submissions is Claudio Silva. He's on a 14-fight winning streak. He was the biggest favorite on the card at minus 550, and this was, I thought, as impressive as I've seen him fight. It was a quick fight, so it's hard to take much from it. Cole Williams looked like he came in on short notice, kind of out of shape, hadn't been fully prepared. They traded shots early. Silva immediately got the takedown, took his back, and finished him with a neck crank.
But those neck cranks, man.
His last fight was that Danny Roberts fight, which had a controversial ending. But he ended up getting the win by verbal tap out on that. That was a fun fight to watch. I'd like to see him fight someone getting up close to the rankings now. With this win streak, he's undefeated in the UFC. I believe 5-0 in the UFC. He's got submissions in each of his last 3 fights. He's going to be a tough out for anyone. He's in that welterweight division, which is super deep, so there's opportunities there. And I'd like to see him against some higher, I guess not necessarily ranked opponents, but getting close to where the rankings are.
Alex Oliveira?
I'd see it. Yeah,
I think that'd be a good mix-up. That's an unranked fighter that's off a 2-fight loss and against big boys that fought. I mean, if you want to mix it up with somebody that ain't got a number next to their name, Charles Oliveira is always ready to scrap. The guy takes grenades, literally.
And Claudio Silva's had injuries that have kept him out longer between fights than he'd like to, but he's saying he's healthy. He wants to fight right now, and I'd like to see him fight now. Now it's a good win for him, especially coming off of that controversial win. The last fight we wanted to talk about, against Danny Robertson. The last fight I wanted to talk about on this Newark card is Antonina Shevchenko and Lucia Pudilova. And this was another fantastic fight. I mean, typically for these female fights, these lighter girls, I'm not expecting much unless they're really high caliber, up at the championship level fights. I mean, Antonina's been fighting a long time, not necessarily UFC, but she's got a lot of fights in her. Yeah.
But had that gap. We talked about it, had that gap there for a while, so it's very impressive how she can still trade in there.
But this was a fun fight to watch. Yeah. The first round was awesome. Antonina's winning the first round. Pudilova
just kept coming.
Hits her right at the end of the round, puts a big cut on her. And immediately after that, Antonina gets her in an armbar that looks
it's so deep.
So set. Like, that's the end of the match. And then she worked her way out of it. The first round of this one was fantastic. Yeah. And then early in the second round, Pudilova slammed Shevchenko because she had a hold of her. Immediately after she slammed her, Shevchenko finished the choke on her. And for the third time, I guess this was the first of the three, actually, the fighter was out before the ref called the fight.
Yeah. And even picked her hand up, and I think it was a caught situation. Like, they picked her hand up, and they put it down, and it kind of moved. So he's like, oh, she's okay. And it's like, no, she's not. Like, I know you're thinking she's trying to stay relaxed. Like, that was a good 5 seconds over choke.
Yeah, it seemed like she was out for a while.
Yeah.
It's tough to tell, obviously, in the moment, but definitely could have been quicker. And so let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to talk about it.
A lot of controversial stoppages this year. Much more so in the beginning of the year than there was towards the end. These last few months have been pretty clean, but we started off the year with some big ones. I mean,
let's go through them. I think it's a better time than ever. The first one of the year was the Cejudo-Dillashaw fight, the one that Dillashaw ended up getting suspended for. But he got hit twice. He was not out. Clearly not out. He was definitely wobbly, and seconds into that fight. I mean, I think it was less than a minute into that fight gets called. I think, and I think we tell people, because it's been a minute, we describe it to them and then give our opinion on it, because I really want to see your opinion on it, because everybody's opinion on this type of shit's obviously different. A fight's a fight. We got two people going in that are trying to hurt each other, put each other out, whatever they do to win that fight to make money.
All right, so starting with the first one, I would say that was an early stoppage. And I think there's a couple things that you got to keep in mind there.
Sure.
It's not the fifth round of a 5-round fight where this guy's taking a bunch of damage and now he just took 2 huge shots and he got wobbled and you don't want to see anymore.
Okay.
That's one. Second, these are little guys.
Sure.
If you take a couple extra shots, you're not taking a couple extra shots from Francis Ngannou.
No, that's a different breed.
And third, this is a champion versus champion fight.
Yeah.
You let the champion fight it out. So for those 3 reasons, taking all of them into account, I would not have minded if they gave these guys a little bit longer to go.
You wanted to see somebody go limp in this way because...
Doesn't need to go limp.
Well, no.
I'd like to see someone lose the fight surely.
Well, I say that it's early in the fight, so you're right. So the punches are going to be hot and the guys are going to be active. TJ even said it. EPO or not, I got clipped in the back of my head and my equilibrium was gone, but my feet and where I was at was still there. I just could not dial it in, not to where he goes. I've been clipped before when I'm in trouble, like the John Dotson in the Tough fight. He was on chicken legs. This was more like, I'm right here, I had 6 beers, I came home, and I'm a little tipsy. He knew what he was doing. And I get with that. I'm with you. Let 5 more punches from Henry on the ground at this size happen and let TJ not defend himself. I agree with that.
Watch and see if he's able to defend. Don't tell him he's not able to defend
This
himself.
was a Kevin McDonald that is another staple ref in the deal. This is not a new ref. This is not a, Magasaki type of deal where you have somebody that's already had some really bad track records. This is a very good ref that had a big fight.
And the first one, ESPN.
Yeah.
I think that in that situation, with champions out there, you got to let them go.
I agree with you.
So that was the first one of the year. That was in January. In February, we had Jimmy Crute and Sam Alvey. Alvey was complaining about that one afterwards. He's been complaining about it since, says he doesn't want Mark Goddard to ever ref any more of his fights.
I think that's a complete opposite one. I think Mark Goddard did him a favor that he'll never know. I think Jim Crute was going to make him now be hit 3 times, and that third one is Sam Alvey doesn't remember the fight to complain about. That was a situation that I think Mark Goddard saw what was coming. Guys are way bigger at that weight class. This is light heavyweight. The punches are stronger. The damage is stronger. You got clipped twice. You went off your feet, you came up, you were all over the place, and this guy that was walking you down was bringing another one right to your dome. So this is opposite of what we just said with TJ. I think he did Sam Alvey a favor, but maybe Sam Alvey wanted to go out that way, and that's honorable, but I do not think that was a bad stoppage in my eyes.
And I would agree. 100%. I was fine with that stoppage. We got the next week after that one, still in February, Francis Ngannou and Cain Velasquez. This was, I believe, the second fight on ESPN, or the second card on ESPN.
Yeah, in February.
So this was super quick. Francis hit him, Cain dropped, Cain fell funny, and this is the opposite scenario of what I was talking about with Cejudo and Dillashaw. You get dropped quick, not sure if he's going to be able to defend himself from Francis standing over him and just dropping on his face. That's when you stop a fight quick, because
you know the
you don't know if you can survive that.
Yeah, you know the repercussions could be detrimental.
Cain didn't seem to have any issues with the stoppage. He also got paid a fuck ton for fighting for 30 seconds.
Whether he blew his knee out or not, I thought on both
I think he
ends.
blew his knee out when he fell, and I think he fell because he got hit.
Yeah, I think he got clipped enough to where he fell weirdly and his knee went weirdly, which caused the knee injury. I think Cain knows right away that if I took 3 punches on the ground undefended, this could have been way worse. So at the end of the day, thanks for the check. Sorry I didn't put on a better performance, but at the end of the day, it's about money. Nobody's fighting here for free.
A lot of fans were complaining about this one. I didn't hear Cain complaining about it. I didn't have a problem with this stoppage either.
Absolutely not.
We got Ben Askren and Robbie Lawler. This is two weeks after that, so this is the third one, and we're still back at the beginning of March. This was ref by Herb Dean, and everyone remembers this. This was Ben Askren almost going limp from headshots that Robbie Lawler delivered, and then getting a hold of him, put him in a bulldog choke, kind of a neck crank type choke.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And Herb Dean went up to Robbie, picked his hand up. Robbie gave him a thumbs up. As soon as he dropped the thumbs up, he dropped it limp. And as soon as he dropped it limp, Herb called the fight.
Yeah.
This is one that I'm pretty conflicted over, because I've heard Herb Dean talking about how that particular choke is putting a lot of pressure on the neck, and if you do go unconscious, there's potentially permanent damage that can be done, and that played into his decision to stop it. That one, to me, watching live, I was surprised that it was stopped. I mean, I thought it looked like he clearly wasn't out. The way he dropped his hand limp
didn't help.
Yeah, I could see it if that's the only thing you're watching, but he had just had his thumb up. I mean, it was a tough stoppage, and that's one I kind of wish had gone a little bit longer.
The thing that sucks is you can't play favorites with fighters. You know how tough certain fighters are. Like a Diego Sanchez could be brought back to life and say, thank you, I wanted to finish the fight and die. Robbie Lawler's another guy that wants to go until he can't fight anymore. You have to take that away, and I think that's what Herb did, is I think his knowledge of knowing that this type of choke is so dangerous to cause long-term effects, that with a guy like Askren that has it in that, whether you preferential treatment or not, I think he realized that if Lawler hung on for another 30 seconds, the outcome would be the same. But yes, from a fan's point of view, I think it could have went another 10 seconds and the outcome probably been the same.
And I don't think there's an immediate danger of taking more damage.
Conor was choked out with a neck crank from Khabib. There was no nerve damage, none of that. It's the same choke.
He tapped.
No, he did. That's my point.
Yeah.
Is he tapped. He got to the point of tapping. Robbie was probably going to be put into a point of tapping or going unconscious. 100. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's where I stand.
Okay.
And 2 weeks after that is the Danny Roberts and Claudio Silva fight we already mentioned. That was also in March. That one came down to a verbal tap. So Claudio Silva had Danny Roberts in a submission attempt. He slammed him. As he landed, Danny Roberts pretty much screamed and immediately got out of the hold. Kevin Sakai, the ref, heard the scream and called the fight, which is the instructions you're given. If you make a noise like that where you are in clear pain, then the ref is supposed to take that as a verbal tap.
Yeah.
And that's another one that I think that's more...
It's timing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that I'm not going to tell the ref he was wrong here, because Danny Roberts clearly did scream. You could hear on the broadcast. But to see... I mean, you hear him scream and then you see him get out of the thing immediately.
It makes it worse.
That you let him keep going.
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, if you hear him scream and he's laying there, you run in and you stop the fight. But if you hear him scream and then get out of the submission attempt, then I think you let it go.
Yeah, I think that's an anomaly. I think that's a 1 out of a million there, because I've seen a lot of guys get slammed that are already in an arm bar, or they're already in an awkward. We just talked about it with Shevchenko earlier, having a locked up arm bar that looked like there was no way she was getting out of it, and she squirmed out of it and did it perfectly fine on her opponent. I don't see something like this happening often, so that's why I don't have a problem with it. And Kevin Sakai, known ref, but not been around as long as some. So you can't put any heat on him. It's not like he's an unexperienced ref.
Yeah, and most of these stoppages are more along the lines of the Cejudo Dillashaw fight, where they're standing up. When someone gets dropped, the fight stops. It's not typically in transition during a submission, someone yells. I mean, like you said, you're not going to see that too often.
Yep.
One that's like the Dillashaw fight is the Boston Solomon Khalid Taha fight. That was in April, so we're still early in the year here. And Boston Solomon was dropped, and he was not given a chance to show that he was not defending himself. And
I agree.
I think that this one should have gone longer. He was verbally upset with the stoppage. He got lit up.
He dropped hard.
But I think that you have to let him show that he's not defending himself, and just say that you're defending yourself, because there wasn't another shot.
Take another shot and then go, okay, he didn't even put his hands up. Now we stop.
Yeah, there wasn't a shot to defend against. So in order to say that he couldn't defend himself, I thought was quick on the trigger.
Sure.
A similar fight was the Pitbull fight against Michael Chandler to become champ in Bellator, and that was another early stoppage. The fight ended early. It was in the first round, I believe less than a minute in again. And again, these little guys hit him. He dropped, and the ref steps in immediately. Doesn't really give him a chance to defend himself.
Well, lightweight's a big difference compared to flyweight, especially with guys that are as violent as Chandler and Patricio. That's where my difference is my problem with this stoppage that I understand from Chandler's point of view. He got dropped. He got dropped well. He got dropped by a clean punch that hit him right on the side of the head, right in front of the ear, but not behind the head. Dropped. Patricio hit him in the back of the head as the ref called the fight. Basically, Chandler saying, I'm getting up and defending, the ref steps in, and I'm still hitting the back of the head, and I'm still here. But...
yeah, was I really out?
Was I really out? Was I not? So that's the problem with me, is I would have rather seen Chandler take 10 punches on the ground, even not clean punches, just enough punches to show that he's in a vulnerable scenario.
That's what I'm saying. This is lump this in the same category as the Salmon fight or the Solomon fight, and also
take the extra shots to prove it. Yeah,
I think that in both of these instances, or all three of these instances, the fighter was not in immediate danger of taking unnecessary damage. I mean, any shot you don't need to take is unnecessary damage, but I'm not thinking that there was going to be something that is just, oh my God, you have to have stopped the fight. I don't see that.
Dan Hooker on Jim Miller that we just talked about earlier. Dan Hooker landed a knee and crippled fucking Jim Miller. And Jim Miller was laying on his back against the fence in an L position. And Hooker came in with an absolute haymaker right. The ref wasn't close enough to stop that. That was not necessary damage, but that damage was still in play. These guys, a lot of times, if you notice, the ref's right over top of them. If I drop you with a knee...
And they're not in the fetal position.
Yes. If I drop you with a knee out of nowhere across the ring, and you fly back 10 feet and hit the cage and try to get your bearings, and then I clip you with a full haymaker, that's part of the sport. When the ref's on top and the other guy's on top laying multiple punches, that's when you need to stop it. And that's the gray area here is... the ref for Bellator was on top of Pitbull and Chandler. He just decided right away, Chandler's not got his bearings. I'm not going to see any more of this. It's over.
People can recover from that.
People can recover from it.
So I'd rather see that one go a little bit longer.
Yep. No, I'm just saying in his mentality, that's what he thought, and that is why we're talking about it, because he automatically assumed, nope, there's no way he's coming back from this. And the next thing you know, 2 seconds later, Chandler's standing up, taking a back of the head shot, going, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Another fight that happened more recently that falls in the same category is Aspen Ladd and Jermaine Durandamy. So this is also like 30 seconds into the fight. Jermaine lands flush with Aspen. She falls on her ass. She looks at her like she doesn't know where she is, but she doesn't take another shot after that. Herb Dean steps in. Is this the same to you as the last three we just talked about?
It's not, because this is what I worry about, and I'm speculating. Our whole podcast is speculation on a lot of stuff, but I look at the weight cut that she took that week that was on social media, that was on national television, to see how decrepit she was and physically in pain, and then takes a shot like that and drops. But then I have to pull the other thing. You sign up for this sport. Do you think one shot from Durandamy right there that was just flush as shit again on the ground is really changing that fight as far as damage? She's already hurt. And also, put the obvious in that she was dropped and then dropped again on the ground, defenseless. No one can question it. Let you take that monster shot. Herb was right there. He was over top of him. She lands a monster bomb and she goes out again. Then you wave it. One more punch in a fight like that was probably expected to go 3 rounds isn't changing a fighter's career.
So you wish that the stoppage hadn't occurred there?
No. I actually think in this case, for unfortunate reasons, that enough people saw what happened with that weight cut. But I think Herb didn't want to see someone take unnecessary damage when they absolutely could have taken.
So do you agree or disagree?
That's my hard part, because I think it was influenced by unnecessary things. 20 years ago, no one's looking at Matt Hughes' weight cut or anybody else's tough weight cut because it's not plastered all over YouTube. With a weight cut like Aspen, when she is crying and vibrating and screaming in pain, giving a pound extra on the weight cut, and Herb obviously knows this. He follows the fights, whether you want to act like it or not. My speculation is that Herb was afraid that if she dropped that hard right there and looked like she was out, that we got to call it. In my mind, like I said, let Durandamy put one more hard punch on the ground and then call it. Herb wasn't on the other side of the...
Too early.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I agree. I think it's
the reason I got so in depth on this one is because it made me sad to see Aspen Ladd, who was on such a great run in the UFC and doing really big things, get up and look at Herb Dean and go, "Are you serious?" And Herb was saying, he goes, and you look when she dropped, she was very out of it.
Oh yeah, she got lit up.
She got lit up. Let's let no one have any speculation. Let's let her go, not limp, but let's let her go to a point that she cannot continue even more, because then we're not even talking about this. I would love that we wouldn't have to talk about any of these, but this is the sport that we follow. Yeah. There is so many tangibles that come in.
I think this is what I've been going to on all of these, and I'm going to go right back to it, is that she looked like she wasn't going to be able to defend herself.
The word look.
There wasn't a point where she wasn't defending herself. She got hit and that's what put her down. But there was never a shot after that she did not defend because another shot did not come.
She didn't take 9 shots.
I think, unless you're unconscious,
keep it moving.
There has to be an opportunity for you to defend. It's like I don't know why it's jumped in my head, but Minority Report, the movie where where you get if you're about to commit a crime, you can get arrested.
Until you commit that crime.
Yeah. Until there's something to defend yourself against.
Yeah.
Who's saying you're defenseless? Yeah. You just don't know.
That's a very good point. No, that's a very good point.
And that brings us to this last weekend. UFC Newark, there were 3 non-early stoppages. Late stoppages.
Complete
two
opposite.
2 more by Herb Dean.
Do you think that, just going real quick on that, do you think this background record of what we've been talking to affected this? Or do you think it was just randomness, the way that these chokes and these other situations were?
I kind of feel like that in the Herb Dean situation, it probably did affect it.
Because look how many times.
He's the only referee that's been twice on this list through 2018 that we just mentioned, or 2019 that we just mentioned. Both of them were for potentially early stoppages. And now both of these fights, the two that he reffed in this past weekend's event, was the Mearshart-Trevin Giles fight and the Jim Miller-Clay Guida fight. Both of them were...
very out.
Yeah, I thought so. Who tapped? Was it Clay Guida tapped, but he didn't? But
no. Mearshart had Trevin Giles, tap, but it was not visible from that angle because he was tapping as they were moving and rolling, so it was not seen as obvious.
Yeah, Herb was on the wrong side.
Exactly.
Didn't see it. It is what it. I mean, you're supposed to be putting yourself in a position where you have to see the available taps. I don't know. I'm not going to tell him how to do his job. He's good. He's a good referee. But I do think that the fact that he's had twice this year already where people have verbally called him out for early stoppages played into this, where he's not stopping this fight unless he knows the guy's out.
Yeah, the thing that I think about right now that BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar said this a long time ago on Tough. There was a guy that was like 6'7", heavyweight coming in to fight, monster guy trying to get on Tough, and he got cleaned up and just knocked the fuck out on his face, dropped so hard in front of his mom. And everyone's like, man, this is tough to watch. Like, his mom just watched this. And Frankie Edgar and BJ Penn go, this is a hurting sport. That's what I always say. He goes, this is a sport that's not for the faint of heart. You know what you're getting into. There is going to be times that things don't go your way and you're going to get knocked out, you're going to get tapped out, you're going to get hurt, you're going to break something. You signed up for this. So, yes, a lot of these fights could have been changed with the outcome or the possible outcome. All three of these fights that we saw this weekend were talking opposite. The fight was already technically over as far as who was going to win. We let someone go a little too far. I'm not as mad about these as I am about the ones that could have changed the outcome down the road.
And that's the biggest thing. You listen, are there fighters complaining about, oh, she put me out, or oh, he put me out?
When has anyone ever said I was out too long? No one.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no fighters complaining about this. There's nothing left up to, well, it would have been this way, and that's why we're going through this list of, I don't know, looks like a dozen, and there were a couple that I said were fine stoppages.
Yeah.
And the rest of them, I wish they would have gone longer.
Think how many events.
None that I said should have stopped earlier. I mean, there were no fights this year so far that were like, man, this one they should have jumped in earlier. They're good about that. I think that the issue is they need to give the fighters more chance to prove that they won.
Well, I brought it up earlier today before we recorded, is I use an example of you have to sometimes realize a fighter can be tougher than their own good as far as your team, your corner. When you had Raquel Pennington fight, she was too good for her own good, and her corner said keep going, and then she finally said I can't take anymore. Sometimes the ref has to step in even at certain points.
And her corner wouldn't let her quit.
And her corner wouldn't let her quit.
That's messed up.
The other one that we had that people forget about is Eric Anders versus your boy.
He is your boy.
Well, he is your boy. That's true. That's very true. Khalil Roundtree. That was another fight that if there was probably 10 or 15 more of those leg kicks or already to that point, that could have been a called fight. Guys that are so tough as nails or women that are so good for their own good, sometimes a ref has to step in. Pride back in the day had a lot of white flags. There was a lot of white towels that came in. Gracie had his own team throw a white towel in. I think a lot of these refs know that these corners, because of the money and opportunity, are not going to put their fighter in and give up. I think this is why the refs are in such a tough spot, is because they have safety number one, they have outcomes number two, and three, everything happens in a split second of a moment.
That's the toughest part, is how quick everything happens.
NFL, they always said, a referee watching an NFL game every snap is a train wreck running at you, and you have to try to tell you what just happened. Every time. It's tough to do. A ref's job is not easy. It's easy for us to speculate.
I think I'm more comfortable erring on the side of later.
Yes.
Unless they're heavyweights that are taking a beating, you stop.
Kane and Ngannou are the only time to where you say, please do not let Kane lay there holding his knee and take 7 TV screens to the face at 100 miles an hour, because that's what was going to happen.
So yeah, that's it. I mean, there's been a lot of cleanly refereed fights of late. Certainly not complaining with the state of it.
Not at all.
Like I said, I'd rather err on the side of letting them fight. There's been a couple fights that have been confirmed worth talking about since we last met. Jack Hermansson's going to make his return. He's going to fight Jared Cannonier in Copenhagen next month in September. And that's good for both of these guys. Jack Hermansson was hoping for someone higher up in the rankings, and I don't know that he didn't deserve that, but there wasn't anyone available after Yoel's fighting Paulo Costa. Weidman left the division.
Yeah.
So the people that were there to fight weren't there to fight. Jared Cannonier is coming off that win over Anderson Silva, so this is an opportunity for him to fight someone who's highly ranked in the division, who's not well past their prime, and really prove what he's bringing to the middleweight division. The other one is the Jeremy Stephens Yair Rodriguez fight. So that's going to headline the Mexico City card. That's going to be a great fight. So many times we've heard someone else is headlining this fight. This one's been set. So Jeremy Stephens and Yair Rodriguez there's a lot at stake in the featherweight division in Mexico City.
I really worry about that fight. And I don't ever compare fighters to fighters, especially weight classes. This fight, as soon as it got announced after we thought that Korean Zombie and Ortega were going to fight in that same card to replace this card, this fight screams to me Alexei Oleinik versus Walt Harris. The caliber of people that are put in this is completely mismatched to me. I think Yair Rodriguez is exactly what we've always talked about. He is so different and so wild and everything else. Jeremy Stephens just fought somebody very similar to him, named Zabit. Jeremy Stephens had nothing for Zabit. Zabit was faster, smarter, better takedown defense. I don't think it was as close as the numbers matched. I think Zabit outworks almost anybody in the top 4 and above or below, until you get up to the big boys of Aldo, even Frankie Edgar, Max, everybody. I think this is a very easy fight for Yair, because I think Yair puts on his wildness on Jeremy, and Jeremy has not been having the greatest success lately. Like I said, he's not fighting guys that are not high caliber. I just think a Korean Zombie Ortega fight makes way more sense in the featherweight division as far as talent goes.
Yeah, I think that's like a next contender fight.
Not only that, I think this is a wasted fight for Yair, and I don't hope I'm wrong, because I hope I can make money on it, but I hope I am wrong, because I feel like Jeremy Stephens is way too confident going into this fight that he thinks this is going to be like Zabit's fight, that he's going to be able to put him away or win the decision finally. I think Yair sleeps Jeremy Stephens, and it's been a long time since we've seen that. I think Yair is just so different. He's going to come in there and do that. I really do. But am I going to watch it and we're going to talk about it? Absolutely. That gives me a lot of back memories of what I said about Walt Harris and Alexei Oleinik, and look what happened there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close fight. I don't think it's going to be one-sided, but I guess that's why we'll watch it and find out. Sounds like Derek Lewis is making his return. Nothing's official yet, but they're talking about a fight with Blagoy Ivanov.
No, I do like that fight. I think that makes a lot of sense from the time off that Derek's had, and even off the momentum he's having. I think that's a very good matchup.
So we'll see if that comes true. And then there's a bunch of other fights in talks right now, but
Sure.
nothing else is
Nothing in stone.
Really been set yet. So let's go ahead and look forward to next week. We've got Fight Night Uruguay. So this one's headlined by Valentina Shevchenko, whose sister just won this past weekend. She's fighting Liz Carmouche, who has a victory over her in the past. Vicente Luque and Mike Perry are on this card. Volkan Oezdemir and Ilir Latifi are on this card. This is the third time they've been scheduled to fight, and hopefully this one actually takes place. We've also got Tisha Torres fighting against Marina Rodriguez and Rogerio Bontoris and Raulin Paiva in the flyweight division. So there's fights going on. Yeah, it's going to be a decent card, I think. Like we saw in Newark, you don't need to see huge names to have a great card. If the fights come through, they come through. That championship fight, Valentina Shevchenko, Liz Carmouche, we both got Valentina winning that. I don't think that's any surprise there. She's a huge favorite at minus 1,100. The co-main event is Vicente Luque and Mike Perry. Mike Perry's plus 175 dog, and Vicente Luque is minus 225 favorite. We both got Vicente Luque winning by TKO in this one. I think he just brings too much to the table against Mike Perry. Yeah,
and I also think Vicente Luque's just fought way more technical, higher caliber guys than Mike has. I mean, Mike's a brawler, Mike's wild, but I do not think that at any point Mike Perry has been on a spree of just murdering guys. But Mike Perry's young too, and the thing is, this is a terrific fight. This is going to be, I hope, a fun fight to watch. I don't think anyone's not going to get TKO'd.
Yeah, I think Luque is going to knock Perry out. Maybe he'll take a couple rounds, but I think it's coming.
Yep.
Tisha Torres and Marina Rodriguez. I've got Tisha winning this one. You've got Marina Rodriguez. We both think it's probably going to go the distance. In the flyweights, we got Rogerio Bontorin and Raulin Paiva. And we both got Rogerio Bontorin win that one.
I just think she's way more aggressive. I just think she's very mean.
And then the light heavyweight division, we got Volkan Oezdemir and Ilir Latifi. Volkan Oezdemir is the minus 150 favorite. Ilir Latifi is the plus 120 underdog. It looks like we're split on this one.
We are. That's what I'm happy to do. We haven't had this in a while. Funny part is, last fight card that we had, the Newark card, which was fantastic, is our predictions were exactly split. We won the same amount of predictions, so I'm glad to see us actually have a head-to-head match on this. So I'm going to take your Latifi with a nice sub, and I'm going to see you to your TKO one. So this will be both of our bets, Dom with an Oezdemir and me with a Latifi.
So that's the Uruguay card. That's coming up next weekend. And following that is UFC 241 in Anaheim. This is going to be a big one. We've got headlined by Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic 2. Stipe trying to get his belt back from DC, who took it from him. We've got Anthony Pettis and Nate Diaz. Anthony Pettis making his second fight at the welterweight division. Nate Diaz has fought a couple times there already, but he's coming back from years off since fighting Conor.
3.5
so that'll be
almost,
exciting.
Yeah.
We've got Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa. This fight has been scheduled to take place a couple times.
Why'd you have to bring it up? Don't bring it up now. It's going to be canceled.
And we may finally get to see that. Derek Brunson and Ian Heinisch has got a lot going on in the middleweight division. Rafael Assunção and Corey Sandhagen for the bantamweight division.
That's a terrific fight.
And then in the women's flyweight, Poliana Botelha, her opponent Marina Moroz just got dropped from the card. So I don't know if they found any replacement for her. But outside of that, right. I mean, this is
a good card.
Strong looking card. So
yeah.
You always have to see how it plays out, but this is definitely worthy of a pay-per-view. Let's start with the championship fight here.
Sure.
Heavyweight championship of the world, Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. So this is one on, we got Stipe at a plus 110 as the underdog. DC is a minus 140. I really wanted to bet on Stipe here. I want to see Stipe win. I was just thinking how it was going to happen, and I was struggling.
It's tough.
I think if he wins, he probably wins by decision, to be honest. I don't see him finishing DC. It's happened one time by John Jones. One time. I had Stipe picked until I was thinking about how it was going to go down. And
it's tough.
I got to that point, and I was thinking, you know what? I don't see Stipe finishing DC. I think if Stipe wins, it's going to be by decision. And I'm going with DC by TKO in this one.
Okay. I like it. You trust me, I went through the same thing. I don't think Stipe is going to really win anyway, besides having a puncher's chance or a decision. So I'm taking the puncher's chance as my prediction, getting that Tico out the grate and hoping that he just lands everything on him and gets the redemption punch after what happened to him.
I'd love to see it. I'm definitely rooting for Stipe.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd love to see it, but it's just, I agree, it's so hard to bet against DC. It's just like betting against John Jones. It's so hard.
And then the co-main event, we got Anthony Pettis and Nate Diaz. This is a pick'em. They're both at minus 115.
Rightfully so.
And it's who you got. I got Pettis. You got Diaz. I don't see Diaz getting finished. That doesn't happen.
See, that's the reason I bet with Diaz, because I know I always have that in my back pocket. Hopefully, the last guy to finish him was a head kick to perfect timing from. I looked it up earlier. I can't remember the Punk. At the same time, Anthony Pettis is just as tough, even through the Tony Ferguson fight. They're both just as tough to always make it through a fight. So I'm not worried about Diaz getting finished. Diaz can fight tough fights and make a decision. He did it with Conor. So that's why I bet on him. Oh, wow. Is this what's going to happen? Oh, not doing it. Okay. I thought you were going to put your bet in on that, but no, regardless, man, it's just cool seeing Nate Diaz get back into the mix of it, especially at welterweight.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think there's a lot of opportunities. If he sticks around and keeps fighting, then there's going to be a whole lot of people he hasn't fought yet at the welterweight division. So I hope that both these fighters remain active. We got Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa. We had just talked about that fight. I think Yoel is the scariest fighter in the middleweight division, and I've got him winning by TKO. Dave's picking the upset, Paulo Costa.
I do, and even though as much time off and as much we've talked about this fight being matched up, falling through everything else, I think Paulo Costa is that real deal. I do not think all the critique on his game, when, Israel said what he did to, Uriah Hall was an old man, and Uriah Hall busted him up with a jab. I think Paulo Costa finally says, I am you 15 years younger, and I'm going to come in here and put you out, and I'm going to take your place. So that's my bet. He's a 145 underdog. Try to make a little money on it.
We got Derek Brunson and Ian Heinisch. Derek Brunson's coming in at a plus 150 dog. Ian Heinisch is the favorite at minus 185. We've both got Ian Heinisch winning by submission in this one. In the bantamweight division, Rafael Assunção and Corey Sandhagen. Rafael Assunção is coming in as the underdog at plus 145, and Corey Sandhagen is a minus 175 favorite. I'm going to go ahead and take Rafael Assunção as my bet on
I like
this
that.
card.
Yeah. He's an older fighter. He's been around a long time, but Corey Sandhagen on the other clip is so new and upcoming on a rip.
This is a big opportunity for him.
It's a huge opportunity.
If he gets a win over Assunção, then that's huge for him, and he's right at the top of the bantamweight division, which is
know is mixing it up.
It's log jammed at the very top, but there's a lot of spots to get to number 2 right now.
Moraes might look for a fight. That'd be a great fight between him and Moraes if somebody wants to take a chance.
So that is the UFC 241 card we're looking at. We're both excited about it. It should be a solid card. This is August 17th, and I know I'll be watching that one here. You got anything else to go?
No, I think something I talked about earlier, I think right now, I know we've talked about a lot. There's a lot of big fights or everything else, but the transitioning right now for mid-year, it's past the fight week and everything else. We got this going on right now where a lot of changes are going to happen here, but at the same time, there's just a lot of just good fights, like we said, from people that you don't hear about. That Newark card just keeps popping in my mind of how many great fights that maybe nobody expected to see. This Uruguay card on paper, it does not look like the strongest in the world, but this could be another card like that. Then you get a very strong card, and you hope matches up to that. So I think that's why we enjoy doing this so much, is you continue to have this just mixing conversation of you don't know the outcome. You really don't.
And I like how they're doing fight class fights kind of in bunches, where you have several welterweights on a card and maybe several
three light heavyweights. You know,
right. And it really can change the picture of what's going on in that division just in a weekend or two.
Well, look at the Newark card. So we have a fight that most people assumed would go 5 rounds at the end, which was Colby and Robbie. There was a ton of fights that were ended in the first, ended in the third, ended in the second. They're all over, spread out. You know, not every card has to have, we need 3, light heavyweights and 1 heavyweight to speed this card up. They know that these guys are coming in here and doing whatever they want. And if they happen to get that early finish, who gives a shit about the time? It's just keeping people entertained. And I think fights like Newark are a fight card that I wish somebody that's never watched UFC, I could sit them down and say, hey, this is completely free. Watch tonight.
Yeah, that was a good one. And hopefully these next 2 are as well. We'll get back to you after 241.
See ya.